I'm here to chime in and correct everyone talking about the Mac OS X and the Mac OS X argument. Alright, to all the noobs and nubs cakes out there, it is Mac OS X. 10. Not X. 10. You want to know why? I'll go into the history of Apple a bit. Alright, back when I was about in kindergarten, my teacher had a System 4 computer. System 4, the Mac OS used to be called System. And there was System 1, System 2, System 3, and System 4. Then they came out with Mac OS 5. Now, instead of changing, since it wasn't that much different from System, instead of saying System 5, they changed it to Mac OS 5. So after that, Mac OS 6, then Mac OS 7, and then Mac OS 8. I own a copy of 8. I own 8.6. And then there was Mac OS 9. And then when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, he brought his next operating system with him. They combined it with a lot of Apple properties, and it was Mac OS X. The reason, in case you guys don't know, there's something called Roman numerals. And I is 1, 2 I's is 2, 3 I's is 3, an I and a V is 4, a V is 5, a V and an I is 6, a V and 2 I's is 7, a V and 3 I's is 8, a V and 4 I's is 9, and X is 10. That's 10. I think if Apple does come out with Mac OS 11 and they put an X and an I don't think you're going to be calling it Mac OS XI, are you? No, you probably say 11. Now it's Mac OS X. How many times do I have to tell people this? It's not OS X. You want proof? I'll get my Mac to tell you. Here, let me turn on my volume here, and I'll type in Mac OS X. Alright? Well, let's first type OS X, because if you just put OS X, it'll say OS X.
OS X.
Oh, look. I just put OS and an X next to it. It says OS X.
OS X.
It is OS X. The operating system just told you. Look at it. Watch.
Mac OS X.
It's OS X. It's not OS X. It's OS X. Now, if you want the Apple, go to About This Mac and tell me what the version it says under Mac OS X. Mine says version 10.5.3. It's 10. I cannot stress this enough. I don't know, I get confused when someone says OS X. It's not an X, okay? It's a Roman numeral for 10. If you look at the operating system before Mac OS X, it was Mac OS 9. Okay? The reason I think they called it X is because since it borrowed so many features from Steve Jobs' own personal project, the Next OS, since the X in Next was huge, and then they combined it, and then they said, hey, it's a 10th operating system, why don't they just use X, and then, Mac OS X, instead of just putting the number 10. But that's all I gotta say. There's your proof for all those idiots who argue it could be X too. It's Mac OS X. Okay? 10, 10, 10, 10, 10.